I think it's more of the corporate lobby because science and data, it's already there, and it shows that moving from coal to clean energy, renewable energy, is far more cheaper and cost-effective compared to going through gas. So I think it's more of the lobby from the corporations, capturing policy, in particular in the Philippines or even in many other countries in Southeast Asia. If we address the issue on corporate lobby, I think that will be a key element in terms of transitioning the whole region. I think it has something to do with the investments of the origin of the public finance. So in particular, in the case of Southeast Asia, it's dominated by Japanese investments. As data have shown, which was released in the COP, basically that Japan is the most prominent in terms of financing gas expansion and in previous decade, the coal expansion in the region. So it has something to do with the corporations that, government want their industries to actually thrive and expand some more. So it has something to do with the, how public finance is tied up to address the risks of investing in the region for their corporation, guarantees, which, in most cases, there are a lot of risks. In particular, for Southeast Asia, it's more on people's resistance. And so I think that issue on public finance being tied up to the industry of these countries needs to be addressed. That is a very interesting question because, in particular, for the Philippines, it's the same corporation that is now dominating the gas expansion, who have dominated the coal expansion in previous times, are also poised to actually be leading the renewable energy transition. That plays to the advantage of countries such as the Philippines because most of these corporations, in particular San Miguel Corporation, is actually leading the renewable energy program in terms of ambition. So if only that these investments or these projects becomes more prominent and shareholders actively, play a role with their investments or their shares and encourage or force the management or the board to actually prioritize renewable energy, then I think, we would have a more hastened process in terms of energy transition in the region. It's really mind-boggling that after a decade of coal resistance and finding coal as a stranded asset eventually in most countries in Southeast Asia, that now Southeast Asia is pivoting towards another detour away from renewable energy. So it's mind-boggling for Southeast Asian governments to prioritize gas these days. But as coal have shown us that eventually it will be a stranded assets and eventually governments will move away from it. So governments need to learn from that in terms of looking at gas as a transition fuel because eventually in the next 5 years, renewable energy will become far more cheaper and far more deployable. Oh, definitely no. For one, it's mainly imported. And not just for the Philippines, as well as Vietnam and even Thailand in particular, are now experiencing the crunch of a limited supply of LNG globally, right? Because everyone is pouring into Europe. So you have to raise or you have to challenge the prices that Europe is now pushing. And many of the countries, like for example in South Asia, the crisis on supply from LNG has become far more acute. And if there is lesson that should be learned from Southeast Asia, you just have to look to your neighbors, which is South Asia. So I think the trajectory to actually use LNG or fossil gas, which are mainly imported, will definitely be exacerbating the already problematic import dependent on coal in particular for many Southeast Asian countries. I think it's a combination of many interventions. For one, majority of the power sector in the region are mainly government-owned. So definitely investments from governments would actually be very crucial. For economies that are far more market-oriented, so therefore the role of government to actually further unlock the gridlocks in renewable energy investments would be very crucial, coupled with government prioritizing public infrastructures, just basically as simple as solarization of all public infrastructures, starting with health and education, will actually create a lot of signal for the market to come in and be aggressive in terms of renewable energy expansion in places like the Philippines. In so many cases, it's really very important because it does not just address, the contribution of Southeast Asian economies and states to achieving 1.5-degree stabilization, but also in terms of addressing poverty alleviation and addressing energy poverty in the region, because there are millions, hundreds of millions that don't even have access to electricity. And what we've seen in the last 2 decades of coal expansion in the region, it doesn't address poverty, energy poverty. Millions are still without energy access, and it's only through distributed renewable energy that we can actually address, first and foremost, universal access to electricity in the region. So it's a no-brainer not to choose that path for Southeast Asia.